Hello and welcome everybody to another Thursday night edition of Aquaholics Anonymous Live. I appreciate you all being here. Of course, I've got my buddy, my pal, my co-host, Chattanooga Ed. If you don't know him, go check him out. Awesome guy, awesome channel, and we do a lot of fun stuff together. Thank you for the audio video check there, Merdula. Appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to tonight's stream. I had a couple ideas going into tonight, which is why I didn't post it earlier. I am going to start scheduling them a couple of days out. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to go with. And then I was like, you know what? I have all these things that I use in the hobby that some of them I wouldn't necessarily even own if I wasn't a fish keeper, that make life either easier or more efficient, or just neat little tips and tricks. So I want to share those with you all tonight. And I'm looking forward to getting into the chat later on as we progress and hearing some tips and tricks from you all. And I do want to probably be a small series of videos, because I don't think that I think there are too many things to put into one video without it getting too lengthy. So if you've got some great ideas later on, I'd love to hear those, and maybe they'll be featured in a video. Before we get into that, we'll give people a second to roll on in. Just some updates. I do have a members only video that is dropping right after Chattanooga Ed's stream, and that is for you all. The members already know there was a cutoff issue at the end of the last members only video, so we got to the axolotl tank, and then it kind of cut. My apologies for that. That video is uploaded, it's processed, and it's ready to go. So you all will have that after Ed's stream. I do want to say a huge thank you to Stephanie Dominguez, who became a member 4 days ago in between streams. So I saw you were in here. I appreciate you. Thank you for becoming a member and joining the Fish from Fever family. That one's not going to work. It doesn't have a string on it. We always like to celebrate new members of the Fever fam. So thank you all for that. And thank you, Stephanie. Glad to have you here, and I hope you're doing well. Thank you to all of you all. We're right at 80 members. We're 78 members, so that's a big milestone for me. Getting close to 100, which is amazing and still unbelievable, especially considering, the channel size, the percentage of subscribers that are members. You all humble me with that every time I look at it. So thank you very much for the support. Enough about that. Did have some awesome things happen this week. Yesterday, my mother came over and we resealed the 125 gallon.
Oh, nice.
We did not film that one for a couple reasons. One of the main reasons being, and I guess let me preface with thank you, and it's not necessary for the condolences. It's been almost a quarter of a century, but yesterday was the 24th anniversary of my father's passing. So it was kind of a somber, solemn day in reflection, and just us spending time together and kind of talking about him. And it wasn't really a good filming day, so to speak. It was good to have that time with her. And it was one of those things that we both enjoyed, that I know he very much would have enjoyed having, owned a fish store even at one point. So didn't film that one. We are going to film, it's probably going to be parts of different tanks. And part of that is my mother actually does the sealing on the tanks, because she's been doing silicone work for so many years. And the deeper the tank, the harder it is for her to get in there. She's getting, a little bit older, and she's broken her collarbone and things like that in the past. So things like the 220 gallon is a 30-inch deep tank. Not necessarily the easiest for her to work on, whereas maybe I could sit, like a 20 long in front of her and she could do the demo. So you'll probably see like the removal portion of that with me in the big tank, and then her doing some things. But we are working on that, because I know that we've been talking about it. But there are a lot of factors that come into play with making that happen. And very funny, Zen said, we sealed it or she sealed it. It was a group effort. Still getting a little bit of the fumes. Reminder, if you're resealing a tank, do it in a well-ventilated area. But I came up with a couple more ideas, and I've been editing some videos for everybody. So those are on the way. But think of it like if you were writing a college
Did
paper.
James go dead, or did I go?
I see me here. Do you see me here? Let's see what the chat says. I don't see anybody saying I disappeared, so I think it's just StreamYard being goofy and not letting us see each other. So I will continue on unless I see otherwise from the chat. But think of it like you're writing a college paper 6 months ago, and you've got 20 different sources or pages in different books that you're having to use, and then you have to come back and try and remember, okay, where was that page? What was that thing I was using? Where's that audio clip? Where's that video clip? All over multiple devices. So it's being a little slow. I think it might just be where your power flickered for a minute and it kicked your DSL off that's still catching up to that, Ed.
Yeah, I had just like 15 minutes before the cast, there was like a little blackout and it knocked everything out. And hopefully it doesn't act up all night long.
Yeah, I hope not. I am working on, so that's the thing is I've upgraded the internet. We've got the upgraded camera, mic, all that stuff. Working on upgrading the computer is the big thing at this point so that we can actually go from StreamYard to another streaming platform and bring you all a better quality stream. Something else I'm working on, again, the $4,000 central heat and air bill kind of kicks the new computer out the window, so to speak, but it's still in the works, getting there slowly but surely. And that's where, the support from you all is greatly appreciated because it makes those type of upgrades and improvements to the channel better. But we've got 71 people in here, 38 likes. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you for the thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Let's go ahead and jump into some tips and tricks and tools and things that we use, Ed, to make life easier around the fish room and improve the quality of life. I do see all the super chats. I appreciate you all, and I will definitely address those as we get a little bit further on, and then I'll jump into the chat for some Q&A and commentary. I guess starting off with a couple of larger items, because most of these are fairly cheap things. A lot of it's dollar stuff, but a couple of larger items that I recommend would be a shop vac. A shop vac really is a wonderful thing, especially as you get into multiple tanks and fish rooms. Not just for spills, but I've also gotten to the point where if I'm breaking down tanks, moving things around, having to pull substrate, I'll use my shop vac to get the substrate out. I keep my shop vac washed and aquarium safe, if you will. Also, we've all had to deal with that last little bit of water in the tank that we can't quite drain out with the siphon. And you can always tilt it and put a block underneath it. So there's another tip. If you've got a tank, you need to get all the water out, raise one end up, and then chalk it up with something to put it on an angle. But 125-gallon tank, you can't exactly pick it up and dump it out to get that last bit of water out, and you need it to be completely dry for a reseal. So
I can't live without it.
Yeah, wet dry vacs are a huge thing. Also, like I mentioned, this whether it's sand or gravel, you can suck that stuff up with the shop vac. So you get in there, I got all the substrate out, got the water out, made it super easy. Sponge does work for the last bit of water, absolutely, Lonnie. But it's something I recommend. And if you've got a Harbor Freight or any type of discount tool shop nearby, just keep an eye out. Harbor Freight runs all sorts of discounts all the time. Absolutely, easy to get one for $30, no problem. So that's something that I definitely recommend. Another thing, if you have larger tanks or a lot of tanks, one thing that I find comes really handy is a furniture mover or a mover's dolly. It's the four-wheeled version that sits low to the ground, maybe about 4 inches off the ground. That's got 2 carpeted arms on it. They're like $10-15. You can get, again, Harbor Freight, the coupons and the discounts.
I have 2 of them.
Yeah, those things are, and even just for moving 5-gallon buckets of aquarium gravel, a 5-gallon bucket of substrate is not light. So those things are a real back saver. And I definitely recommend if you're doing much of any moving things around or heavy tanks or a lot of substrate, things like that. It's a great thing to have on hand. And they're amazing how many other everyday uses you can get out of that. That being said, I don't have those in the room. I didn't want to drag them in here for props. But let's start with a couple of the basic things that I think most of us are aware of, but maybe if you're new to the hobby, you aren't familiar with because they're not necessarily hobby related. So we've got polyfill. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with using polyfill. This is the sheet. So this unrolls, and I like to use this a lot in my do-it-yourself sump setups. Also, you can retrofit it to hang-on backs where you can wrap that around the cartridge container versus buying those refills, because Lord knows they nickel and dime you to death on those. But I also do have the bag of the stuffing, so I keep both on hand, and I use that for a lot of different things, including the do-it-yourself box filter, a lot of other filtration methods. Works really, really well for that. You can even make do-it-yourself water polishers, which will actually, I can go ahead and We can talk about that now. All the props. All the props. Ed's prop guy didn't show up to my house like he was supposed to, so I'm having to handle my own props. But one of the things I love to do with polyfill is do-it-yourself polisher. I know we've talked about this. Normally I don't have the props. Basically what I'll do is I'll just take an empty water bottle, take the cap off, and I think this is a different brand than I normally use, but that'll fit right on there, and you can kind of push it up on there. If not, we've got some gaskets and other things. And then you just, make sure I'm on camera, cut the bottom off to whatever size you're wanting. I usually will put some coarse filter pad around that part there just to keep polyfill from getting sucked up into the impeller. And just fill that with polyfill. And then you've got a nice powered water polisher.
Very nice.
Set that there.
Can I show something that I have that I absolutely love in my fish room that doesn't cost much?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's attached to my wall, but I have a bucket that I attach next to my door, and I keep all my important stuff that I always lose in that bucket. So every time I need my tweezers, I have them in the bucket. Now I took a big handful of it out for this show, but I'm just going to show you this little bucket. Okay, it's right there. It's kind of far away. It's got a black net, fish net hanging out of it right now, but it is absolutely awesome to have a little bucket. You can get like a beer bucket or anything, you know. Mine's just a little tin bucket, but it's such a nice thing to have because I don't lose stuff anymore.
Absolutely. So I do something similar. A lot of us have these big round cylindrical, whether it be the Tetra tropical color granules, or lots of companies use these type of containers. So what I like to do, I'm not going to get these too close to the electronics, but the high-powered neomagnets, if you've got metal stands, I'll stick one inside that container and then stick the other one on the metal stand. And then I have one that I put my pipettes in. I have one that I put my tweezers and aquascaping tools in. Similar to like what Ed's doing with the cup, the lose it things that you're like, where did I put those tweezers? Where's that? You know, well, I can't find any pipettes for dosing. So that's one of my little tips. And those are just the neo magnets or the high powered magnets. We're going to get that away from the electronics there just to be safe. Oh, Ed feeding the fish.
Well, I'm going to try this. Oh, I wanted to do one with an empty thing. I found one that's empty instead of actually spilling food in case it messes up.
Yeah, because I think you have now craft magnets may work especially for like pipettes and things and lighter things. I like the neo magnets or the rare earth magnets, if you will, because I mean you can pick up a hand sledge with one of those things. So it's really hard to overweigh it. There you go. I know that may be a little, I guess you could say tacky for your fish room, Ed. Ed's fish room looks more like a local fish store, whereas mine looks more like several fish rooms. But I really enjoy it.
I like this idea, though. I would probably paint these black and maybe cut the bottom out and put a net or two in there.
You absolutely can. I do something similar with some of the larger plastic containers that we get in the hobby. I actually have one that was, it came with a bunch of carbon, and it was just in a pile of junk that I bought with a used tank. But I actually dumped all the carbon, and the bucket's about that tall. And I attached it, and I used the Jungle Net Soak, amongst other things, for net sanitization. And so I put it in there, and I throw my nets down in it. And that keeps everything right at hand and ready to go versus having a bucket sitting somewhere in the floor that you got to kick, and stub your toe on, and the cats try and get in and things like that. Speaking of food, I love these things right here. You get 2 of them for $1 at the dollar store. Really great for do-it-yourself fry food. And you can, of course, cut the tip larger or smaller depending upon what size you want. But it's a really good size already for, there we go, get the angle on it, for a powdered food if you're using a fry food, something smaller. Like I said, 2 for $1, so you can't really beat that. Also a hack that Ed and I have talked about and used is if you go on Aquarium Co-op and you buy the big thing of fry food, without the dispenser, and then you use these bottles and stick it in there, you're good to go. So you can buy in bulk, and you still get the benefit of having a dispenser, though not specifically designed by the coop, I guess I should say designer.
I could have had my bag of it for a prop, but it's in the freezer.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place for it. So here's something I would not normally own. 50 cents for one of those. Good Lord, that's a lot of money, said Rico. And Matt Epic mentioned, how am I going to remember the bucket for my forgettables? I don't know. You're just going to have to keep coming back here every week, and we will keep reminding you.
I love the bucket. 2 screws. And it's in your wall. It's great.
Absolutely. Matt, that's a good point. Squirt bottle is also a good way to dispense shrimp, too. So there you go. Brine shrimp, you freeze it, thaw it, rather. Oh, I said freeze it, thaw it, stick it in there, squirt that stuff out. So I would not own these, were it not for fish keeping, but this is just a little $10 mortar and pestle set. Got a big one and a small one. And I use these for my do-it-yourself fry foods. If I'm using bigger foods that I need to powderize, and I know you use the nut in the container to crush up your flake foods. But I love these because if I've got maybe something that's a really quality food, but the size is too big for them, I could stick it in there, crush it out, and get it into my fry food mix. Yeah, see, that's an awesome trick for flake food. If you want it all teeny tiny. All right.
Which I do because I'm feeding guppies.
Absolutely. The big fish don't care for it. And that's one thing. I've made some of my flake food too small to even feed the piranhas and things of that nature, the bigger cichlids and bichers and whatnot. So here's something that we can all use. Various shapes and sizes and forms for these. But, and this is again kind of a pretty obvious one, scrapers, lots of different scrapers. Ed, I know you've got a scraper there. Again, most of the stuff, Harbor Freight, $1, $2, $3. Got kind of the standard one. I like this one because it's got the rubber grip to it. So if I'm having to get in and scrape silicone or anything, or I'm scraping algae with it, I don't have to worry about it slipping because it's got that rubberized grip.
That's going to pretend like I was cutting the fur off the cat's ears,
but
I thought, that's a mistake.
I am back. Okay. These, and I know you're a fan of these.
Oh, I love those. The
wider scrapers. Now you can get one of these for like $3 to $5, and it comes with several blades, replacement blades when you get them.
At Harbor Freight?
Yeah, Harbor Freight. This is probably one of my favorite tools for removing silicone, but also just for standard algae removal. So I've got a mag float and all that type of stuff, and a bunch of different scrapers and scrubbers and all that stuff.
Nothing's better.
When I've got to get in the 90-gallon tank, I'm not wanting to use something this size to scrape the glass. That's size comparison here. Your standard razor blade versus these. I mean, that just knocks the job out super quick. This is actually my primary tool that I use to remove all the silicone from the 125. This one, I think a lot of people will enjoy. This is another Harbor Freight one. Now, when you buy this, it actually has a bunch of extra blades and a cap on the end of it. I take those out and I take the cap off because it's not made to be watertight. That's not the intention. It's a long-handled scraper.
Oh.
And what's cool is this is great for nano tanks, getting in there. But the really cool part is it actually comes with several plastic blades. So
wow.
That's neat. You get some metal, you get metal blades, but you get these plastic blades.
You could scratch your back with that.
You could. You get a back scratcher. There we go. All right. But yeah, I love them, especially for the plastic blade aspect. And those blades will fit in some other things, anything that's got a clamp down style versus the slot, because the plastic is thicker than your standard metal blade. But that's just one of those really cool tools. Absolutely love it. Delilah, and I'm sorry, I will go back and catch all the comments and questions, but I'm just grabbing some that pop up right in front of me. Delilah asking if I've done the video on resealing a tank. I have not. This was going to be the video, but again, we didn't film that for just personal reasons, and it didn't turn out to be the day of filming. And so I'm filming parts of it by myself with the removal of the old silicone. And then I'm going to get my mother in here for the sealing portion of it, because she's looking forward to it too. She wants to share some of her tips and things. And she's done so many aquariums and has, decades of silicone experience. So let the experts do it, right? So moving on from scrapers, we're going to put those right here. Ed, you have anything you'd like to share? I know you've got some things, so why don't you go ahead and share with the class?
I think it's always important to have a little pair of scissors.
Absolutely.
You never know what, you might have to tie something with a string. You may have to open a bag and you're having a hard time untying the stupid knot that was knotted with your fish, and then you can cut it easy. You just always have a nice little pair of scissors in your fish room. And
Absolutely.
I keep the nice fancy ones for cutting the plants up, but I like having just a little pair for just doing the little stuff. I love it. So a $2 pair of scissors at a dollar place.
You could even get them for $1. Some places you can get 2 pairs for $1. Sometimes they get the bonus packs in. And I have actually taken, I guess, legal disclaimer, try this at your own risk. If you break a pair of scissors and it flies off and kills you, I didn't recommend it. But I have actually taken just the cheap dollar store scissors and a set of pliers and bent the blades so that I've got the curve from the scaping scissors without spending $20-25. I spent $1 on a pair of curved scaping.
I wouldn't tell anybody to do that. You're crazy.
I mean,
but hey,
it works.
If it works, it's great.
That's
don't lose an eye.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to realize that metal is not exactly built super tough. It bends really easy on those cheap ones. Here is something popular I'm sure just about everybody in here knows about, but we're going to talk about it anyways, just in case you don't. And that is super glue gel. You get these for $1 at the dollar store. It's dried. It's aquarium safe. You use this on a lot of stuff, from attaching plants, to putting smaller rocks together. I use it a lot on do-it-yourself stuff, just little places where I need a seal. And the great thing is, these 2-packs you can pretty much always find, but a lot of times in the dollar store, you can come across these 3-packs. And anytime I find these 3-packs, I buy them up. I'm sorry, but I do. If I find the 3-packs, I buy all of them because I use it a lot. And I
wish I could find the 3-packs. I look every time.
Well, stay out of my Knoxville stores. No, I'm just kidding.
I will.
So that's a good one. Lots of uses for this stuff. The sky's the limit. Use your imagination. Super great deal. Even if it's the standard 2 of them for $1, because a lot of times you'll see it standard stores, it's a couple bucks for super glue, and it is the gel. I will say I use the gel, not the liquid. That's my preference. That's my recommendation. So when you can get 3 tubes for $1 versus, I've been in Walmart trying to find the dollar packs and they don't have them. It's like, you want $3 for your cheapest super glue gel, and I'm not paying that for, a tube or 2 tubes of super glue.
Crazy.
All right. Where do we want to go? Okay,
my turn.
Go for it.
I keep a shrimp net in that little bucket. It pulls out long. This, every day I do my walk of death. I go around the fish room and I'm looking for a guppy that's dead. Lately, I've been doing pretty good, not finding too many dead guppies. But if I find a dead guppy, if I don't have my tweezers, I'll scoop it with this. I also will go around and I'll do my walk of murder, and I'll scoop out as many live, snails with that too. And I just push it up against the side and bring them up and then dump them.
Yep.
And then I dump them in a bowl. I make sure I always keep this bowl in my fish room. You can tell it has like some duckweed in it, but it's got a rubber base. And it's so nice because it's weighted and it like kind of sticks onto stuff. So it just doesn't roll off and flip over. So you don't get, you don't get stuff spilled all over the place. So, I just throw the snails in there, and then I take them out and I dump them in the yard.
Absolutely. Very, very cool. somewhere along the lines of that would be the dollar kitchen colander.
Nice.
That's great for rinsing gravel, scooping gravel. Lots of different uses. You can even float them. You use them as like a little temporary floating holding thing in your tanks while you're working on stuff. It's a great way, not just fish, but plants also. You know, if you're redoing a tank, you've got plants, you want to keep them wet so they don't get dried out and damaged. You know, you could throw them in there, drop them down in a tank. You don't have to worry about them sinking or being dug out or intermingling with your other plants. And there you go. But what goes hand in hand with that, and don't worry, this is not cat litter on it. That is from Substrate. These heavy duty litter scoopers. I mean, I've seen the regular ones, but these heavy duty ones, I find that the hole size is perfect there. They're really sturdy. It's a really thick plastic.
That is a nice scooper.
So I really, if you see these, again, dollar store, and the colander was dollar store as well. Makes life so much easier. Another thing I like about these is they've got really good angles to them. If you look at how, come on camera, I made the camera mad. There we go.
Nothing sharp.
Yeah, nothing sharp, but they give you really good angles to be able to get into places, even smaller places, get in the corners and get that last little bit of stuff out if you're not using the shop vac method. Also good for when you're doing larger scaping, the spreading around versus using that tiny little thing. Great for spreading it out. You know, it's got that flat angle there. You can break it across. All sorts of awesome things you can do with that. I've even used it for some duckweed removal. You're going to catch guppies in a guppy tank, but you know, other tanks that I don't have to worry about things at the top. Super easy duckweed removal and on a larger scale. Speaking of duckweed removal, this is one of Chattanooga Ed's pro tips here.
Oh, he's got them.
I've got them. I got the plastic ones, and I got this one because it's got multiple sizes in here. So we've got, let's see if I can get this open again. A couple different sizes to choose from on the thickness of the tines. So you've got a little bit wider, kind of smaller. These a little bit thicker than those. And this is a much finer one. So depending upon, I've got a lot of fry, maybe I'm going to use this one. It's not going to get quite as much duckweed maybe, but it's going to let more fry go through. Or if I really want to get in and do some fine cleaning, got that one there that's super fine. I'm going to put them back in the package. Ed, if you got another thing you want to share with the class.
Okay. I like to keep a clamp. You never know what you need to clamp. And I mean, you can also use it to hold stuff together. Well, obviously, but he has a clamp too. So just so many different ways. Now I also keep little $1 clamps that you have for your potato chips, but I think I left them in the other room. But
come back, camera.
You can, those right there. I love those for holding, like I put that on a 5-gallon bucket and then I put my net on it. And so when I do my plop and drop, I can pour my water through the net and catch the fish. And if the fish are frisky and get out, well, they're still in the 5-gallon bucket. So you can fish them out of there.
Yeah, I shared that tip in a video, I guess right at the beginning of the channel. I think it's got like 50 views maybe. But that's one of my favorite things to use them for, is to hold that net on the edge of the 5-gallon bucket. Because how many of us have tried to dump a bag of fish through the net when we're ready to get them into the tank, and then either we bump the net or they hit the net or the water pressure knocks the net sideways and then the net falls in the bucket and you got to catch the fish out. It's just annoying, especially if you're maybe unbagging a lot of things from an event or show. I've even turned some local fish stores onto using that trick.
It's brilliant. But it's improved my life, James. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. But I use it for a lot of stuff. Even the so like the hang on breeder boxes with the suction cups. Suction cups is, there we go again, one of the biggest complaints that I think we all have with things is suction cups tend to suck, right? And not in the way we want them to. So with my hang on breeder boxes, because I've lost a number of fish before with those things where maybe I'm moving tanks around and I put them in a breeder box in a tank where they wouldn't be safe out of the breeder box. And then you come back and the breeder box is dropped to the bottom and the other fish have eaten all your shrimp that you had in there maybe, or your fry or something. So I use these to clip on the side of the tank and the breeder box to make sure that it doesn't drop down in the tank. All sorts of fun stuff. Trying to burn through these. We got about 30 minutes left, and I definitely want to get into the chat and into the comments and the super chats and things. A must-have there.
A tape measure. I always keep a tape measure in the fish room, constantly measuring. How am I going to fit this tank in? You know, will this work? Will that work? Tape measures are just make everything easier. It's
Absolutely.
Just keep one in the fish room or buy your fish tanks and your life will be better.
Most definitely.
I mean, you can measure out, you name it. You know, you can measure out your fish line. You know, if you know you need 6 feet, you can measure out 6 feet, you know. So it's awesome.
It really, really is. I'm going to burn through these a little bit quicker as we go. And then I can get into the chat and the questions and comments. So this stuff right here, that's $1, but I wait till the end of this season because it really is not a huge seller. And usually I get it 90% off. So I think I've still got about 15 or 20 rolls of this that I got for 10 cents a piece. And basically it is bread time material. So it's got that metal in there and then it's bendable.
Wow, neat.
1,000,001 different uses for this stuff. I use it for everything from trying to hang things around the fish room to holding, maybe airline in place. So maybe I've got, I used it to organize on my racks where all my airline comes out from the PVC for my linear air pump setup. Absolutely love the co-op pump. I haven't done a review yet, but that's because I wanted to give it a good chance to really get to use it before I spoke on it. But where I ran all that airline to all these tanks, instead of having a bunch of loose airlines, I took this stuff and I stapled it up to the 2x4s because I made my own rack. And then I wrapped it around the airline. So it looks like legitimately run like professional, like cat cable, or, what you'd see going through a business where it's all wrapped together nice and neat versus just having airline kind of everywhere. But I actually will take this stuff and pretty much every fish rack I have has a roll of this attached to it. I just take a piece off and it's got a little, I'm not going to pull this one off the backing yet, but it's got a little hanger there. So I'll just kind of wrap this through itself and attach it to my fish stand. So then it's right there. It's got its own little cutter built in. So you can just have it hanging there right at hand. I love it. I can't even tell you all the different things I've used this stuff for. It's got its own little cutter. You just slide it through there.
Oh, well, that's neat. I keep a cutter.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always keep a little I call these nippers because I use them also when I'm making models, and I do a lot of my model making in the fish room. But I use it also for cutting hose or just all sorts of little things. And I absolutely love my nippers.
Definitely. Lots of different nippers and snippers and cutting things. I will say, if you're getting into larger scale fish keeping and you're starting to do much of any plumbing work, definitely recommend, this is not a dollar tour, like $15 at the hardware store, PVC cutters. These things versus, here's some fun noises for everyone. Just stick your PVC in there wherever you want to cut it.
So cool. I love them.
Try and fly everywhere. My fingers are not in the blade. Don't worry. There you go. So much easier than using a handsaw to do that. And I wouldn't do without these. Not as much plumbing as I run, both for water as well as the air pump, because with moving things around. Thank goodness that system's modular. I'm back. All right, there we go. Because
James,
highly recommend. Yes, sir.
Do you know what a marshmallow gun is?
It's a gun that shoots marshmallows.
Yes, but you make them out of PVC.
Okay.
The real small stuff. And I volunteered to make 250 of them for a union picnic once, UAW picnic.
Right.
I went through 3 pairs of those little clippers.
Yeah.
They're awesome how good they cut.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that you can actually cut that much, or that it would wear out.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Which
they're
I've used
fun.
that a ton, and I've get to wear that out. So that's good. A quick one here. I recommend you have hanging around, especially if you're into live plants, things you've got to tie down and attach. Lots of other uses. Different diameters of fishing line.
Oh, sure.
All sorts of different uses for that stuff, especially in aquascaping. Especially in aquascaping. It's another cheapie here. The hook and latch or Velcro. Get it for $1. This is great for like the little digital thermometers. They don't always have a good way to attach them, so a lot of times I'll take a little piece of this. Well, not so much the handheld ones, but like the ones that have the little probe and just that little display. You can make that work. You could stick a strip of this on there, but I'll put just a little thing on there, and then I can attach it right there. So I've got my little digital readout on the tanks that I do use that for. Tons of other uses as well. Another quick one, just a little mini dustpan and brush set for $1. Great for cleaning up the small messes. Also, you can even get into, of course, scooping out substrate, especially if you've got little places to get into, brushing it out, all sorts of just different uses. The sky's the limit, right? Another $1 one that I was using to hold a bunch of that stuff. These $1 dishwashing tubs. Dish pan for $1. Of course, great for holding stuff. I use these a lot when I'm cleaning my sponge filters, so I can get my sponge filters out and in there. Plants when I'm rescaping things. Anything I don't want to get water all over the place with, I use these. If it's larger scale, I use the $1 cat litter pans, which are about that big. They're only about that deep. Those work wonders as well. I'm going to cut this off in about 3 minutes so we can get into the chat. So I'm just going to burn through here. These scrubbers, as you can see, this one's used for $1. Another great one. They've got a good grit to them so that you can get some decent scrubbing done with your algae.
Now, do you ever have to worry about those being anti-mold, or are they all safe?
The ones that I have found are safe. Of course, with any type of cleaning sponge or utensil, we'll make sure it's not chemical treated, nothing mold or mildew resistant. Just like your magic erasers, you don't want to have any cleaning stuff on them. But generally, they're made so cheap because they're sold so cheap that adding that stuff to it would increase the cost. Therefore, companies aren't paying the extra to have that done because they want to make it as cheap as possible so that they can have that profit margin.
Oh, so, nice.
Great for scrubbing out tanks.
I like to keep painter's tape.
Absolutely.
Just because you don't know what you're going to need to mark somewhere on it. Maybe you need to know where your water's going to go, or, you can just peel it off. And I love it. I just always keep the painter's tape in the fish room.
Absolutely.
I love it.
These right here, these little paint trim cups. They've got a handle. Now, they're round on the back, so they don't sit perfectly. But they do well for like holding things. So if maybe I'm scaping a tank, I can hang that on there and I can set my tools in there while I'm on that individual tank versus moving my whole bucket of don't lose things. I've even used them for fry before when I'm trying to transport fry out. Lots of different uses. Still not as good as those. I've got the video on those is the one that is kicking my butt editing because I did some really cool time fix things. But I'm working on that. Let's see. All right. I'm going to do one more. We've got a bunch of other stuff. I may do a part 2 on this next week or in the future. Something really cool. If you're doing a lot of do-it-yourself stuff, these assorted O-rings. I think this was like $5 for this kit at Harbor Freight, and it's got all the different sizes. So this works great for a lot of different applications. It's got O-rings that would go around the hard airline, kind of what you would see in an under gravel setup, something like that.
Now, where do you get all those O-rings?
Harbor Freight. It's like $5 for this whole kit.
Oh, the whole thing comes with them. Yeah. I thought you were just showing us the fishing tackle box.
No, that's the whole. It's still. Well, I have opened this one, but
well, that's crazy cool.
Yeah. And see, it's even got the sizes in there on what you're looking at.
Wow.
Definitely well worth it. Well worth it.
Okay, you're gonna have to text me that one because I'm gonna forget, and that's awesome. Well, I'll use my marker that I always keep a marker in the fish room, and I'll write that down. No, I won't, because I'll use a pen on my notepad.
Absolutely. So I think we're going to cut it there because we've only got 20 minutes left, and I definitely want to get in the chat and talk with you all. Before I dive into that, I do want to say a huge thank you to the super chatters and contributors here. We've got Texas Fish Room with the 99-cent, the $1 brown pile of fertilizer there, helping to keep the plants growing in the stream. Thank you for that, Texas. As always, good to see you, buddy. Nope, that's not the bucket for this. That's the bucket for this. All right. Roll on through here. Michelle Kinsey with the $2 super sticker with that 1-up hippo, chomping on the 1-up. Thank you for that, Michelle. Appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the support, along with you being a member. All my members, I love you guys and appreciate you. Sean Chadwick with that $3 thumbs up fist bump pair. Sean, always good to see you. The fist bump. Oh, by the way, the piranha bite is doing really well. I know people ask about that a lot. It's healed up.
Just a dent.
Yep, just a dent. But thank you for that, Sean, my friend. That fist bump.
Now, is your finger as strong as it used to be?
It is. I can still.
So you can still poke people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Rico Stan with $5 super chat says, ha ha, staying alive. And yeah, I appreciate it, Rico. And I see you had another one here. Thank you very much for that. My friend Rico likes to try and make me sing every week. Sometimes I go with it, sometimes I don't. Copyright, right? Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. And you've got some awesome news that you talked about in your other super chat, which was not necessary, but always appreciate it. I'll get to that here in a second. After I say a huge thank you to Peplin Creek Aquatics. What's going on, Pep? Glad to have you here. Thank you for dropping that $1 pile of fertilizer on the stream as well. Help keep the plants happy and healthy and growing. Here it is. For those of you that don't know, and this is Rico Stan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Again, not required, but appreciated. Says, sorry for the self-promotion, but I am beyond excited. I get to interview Rachel O'Leary next Tuesday. I've been on Rico Stan's show, as have you, Ed, and a lot of way cooler people than us. That is super, super awesome. I look forward to that because you've got a very different than the standard fish approach to doing your interviews. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that, my friend, and congratulations on getting her on the show.
Yeah, Rico's doing a great job. They're really fun to watch. Absolutely. Every Tuesday. This week he had Ben Ochart, and I totally missed it. My mom broke her arm on Tuesday, and I had to take her she hit her head in two different places going down, but I don't want to get too far into it, but luckily she just had a minor concussion, and tomorrow we get to find out if she has to have surgery on her arm.
Absolutely. We hope all goes well for her. But Rico Stan, thank you very much for that. And again, congratulations, my friend. Hey, I don't even have to clean that one off the TV screen. What do you know?
But Rachel's super cool too.
Yes, Rachel is awesome. Mike's Aquatics and Things. What's going on, Mike? I was hanging out on one of your streams the other day having some fun. $10 super sticker with that hippo spinning in the chair. I'm not going to do that because I'll kick over all my props and break everything. But Mike, I appreciate you. I do come lurk in there more than you know. I'll put it that way. I do a lot of lurking. I always have a good time seeing what you're up to. I always appreciate your support. So as far up as I can get in the chat, let's see. First highlighted thing would be, there was Rico's super chat. Merdul, that's posting the links. Thank you very much for posting that. Merdul posting the other links. Thank you. Merdul always on top of that. Matt F says, can you tell me how to remember to use the lose it bucket? Yeah, that was that. Okay. So we got that one. Just come back every week and we'll remind you. You're just going to have to tell me where you put it so we can direct you to it. There was the shrimp bottle comment. Hello to Bottom Dweller Aquatics. Good to see you, my friend. Patrick Hardy, how's it going? Matt F says, Fisher and Fever looks at these big spenders. We just went from 50 cents to $3. I know that's crazy. $3 for some of this stuff. Scotty Nanya, how are you? Says, hey, I made it to a live stream. I hope things are going well. Any tips on getting autos to eat? I really don't have any good tips on that are outside of the kind of standard. Ed, you've done more with autos than I have.
Auto cats?
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't buy it or don't get them until you have some algae for them to eat.
Yeah.
And don't buy them from a box store because the box stores don't feed them well. You'll see that their stomachs are all caved in. And I've heard from fish store owners that they have a deal where if they start to starve, they never recover. So it's really good to buy them from your local fish stores. And you can tell that they got like a little round belly. It's real cute, little circle. And if it's going this way, they're healthy. If it's concaved, leave them. Because I've bought them concaved at PetSmart thinking, well, I've got a bunch of algae. They'll be fat in no time. And they didn't make it a couple days. One made it out of like 5 or 6. I would much rather spend the extra 50 cents, $1, whatever it is at the pet store or at your local fish store and buy them there than at your box store.
Absolutely. The only thing that I could possibly think is if you set up a tank specifically to get a bunch of algae growing in and just beam that sucker with light constantly.
And I've done that.
Yeah, and then you could transfer, you get a bunch of rock and stuff in there that's growing the algae on it, and you're transferring back and forth. Kind of algae farming, if you will, in that particular tank.
Oh, I just left the lights on my tank for an extra 3 to 4 hours a day a week prior to getting them.
There you go.
And because like I got these giant autos and I wanted plenty for them to eat. And so that's what I did. It worked.
So I did have the chat jump on me. I lost everything between 9:58 and 9:55. So if there was something in that 3-minute section that I missed, I apologize in terms of highlighted questions and comments. Rolling and scrolling through here. Hello, Aquarium Co-op. Always good to see you. Appreciate you and everything you do for the hobby. All the awesome people in here. Rio's chance of fish room fever. Don't do it. Oh, we're safe. We're good. There was chat from Mike. Thank you.
Rob just said, my fish store guy, he just said, autos always look at their stomachs. If they're starved, they will die. And that's exactly what I was saying. If it's concaved, they're going to die. If they're nice and fat.
It's really hard to get them to come back if you can.
And their stomachs are so cute. Yeah. They got the cutest little fat or little round spot. I don't know.
Cronto Halfman says, have you ever used raw garlic mixed with pellets as a way to get picky fish to eat, especially new foods? So I personally have not. I know a lot of people have, and I've heard it many, many times. It's not something I've ever had to do. So in short, I guess, typically we tend to give into our fish more than we really need to. Our fish typically train us, right? So a lot of times people don't have the stomach, if you will, to get their fish on a new food. And this is not always the case. There are some cases where maybe you use the raw garlic because you just can't get them on the new food. But I've yet to find a fish in my experience, hundreds of tanks, thousands of fish, that I could not get to eat what I was feeding it. You offer it that thing. If it doesn't eat it, okay, we're going to offer it that thing again. I know other people have used this, and I compare it the same way. It's kind of like my kids. Oh, you don't want to eat that? Okay. Well, if they're hungry, they're going to eat it. A fish is not going to starve because it doesn't want to take a food, except for in some specialty cases. So, like autos maybe. But your typical fish that you're, feeding pellets to anyways, you should be able to get that fish most of the time. To be able to take that pellet without having to entice. The thing is, are we giving this thing candy bars? Are we feeding it, bloodworms all the time or brine shrimp and then going, well, it won't eat these pellets? Well, yeah, that's because, you're offering your kid some broccoli, which mine fortunately love, but you're offering the kid some broccoli and they're saying no. And you're going, well, here, have a candy bar since you didn't eat that. They're going to go, oh, well, I'm just going to wait for the good stuff. And it's many, many cases I've seen it with fish that, will only eat live foods. No, and that's like I get into this a lot with piranhas. Well, only feed feeder fish. Without going into the feeder fish thing, if you're doing feeder fish the right way, okay. But if you're feeding them goldfish from the pet store feeder fish, get them on pellets, get them on flakes, get them on that type of stuff. And you can do it. So I would say try your due diligence, try patience, which you probably already have knowing you, Crown Tail. And then if you've been working at it and the fish is just absolutely refusing to eat to the point that you think it might be concerning, try the garlic. Absolutely. But I've never had to do that. I've always just held out with determination and have been able to transition them. And honestly speaking, shout out to Extreme. Y'all know I love them. Not sponsored. I've yet to have to force anything to eat Extreme. I've never had a fish or a tank that I put Extreme food in that the fish did not willingly and aggressively go for that food. So, yeah.
I love it for the shrimp.
I've got a whole bunch of the things in here, the nanos, the flakes, all the good stuff. All right.
I need to buy some more of this stuff.
Oh, my chat jumped on me again. Let's see. Let me scroll through here. We got about 9 minutes, so I'm going to try and catch as much as I can. I can get up to Mississippi Hippies. Have you ever kept electric blue cars and yellow lab and Bunas together? I have 4 young ones of each kind, and I'm wondering if they'd get along in a 75-gallon together. What you think? I can't give you an answer on that one. I am not the African cichlid person at all. That's a Miss Fever thing. Any attempts that I have had with keeping Africans has not worked well for me. And that's why I just don't keep them. And it may have been I got off to a bad start by getting into it by purchasing somebody else's tank. It was already set up. But I've just had bad experiences and have kept away from that side of the hobby. I don't know.
Was it Yellow Labs?
It was Yellow Lab Umbunas and Electric Blue Acaras.
I've had them both. I haven't had them together.
Yeah.
Both of them actually, both I've had lasted a long time. They didn't fight, so they probably would. I mean, but still, I've never done it. So
yeah, and I'm definitely one of those people that have a backup plan before you try it.
Yeah.
But definitely I'm open to trying things, which is why in this tank here, some of you may know, some of you may not. There is actually a very large Vieja cichlid in there, and there are little bitty tetras. Not something I would recommend to everybody, but I've had that particular fish. Big Frank is his name, and that guy is the most gentle and docile large cichlid I have ever known in my life. He's lived with tetras, and he's actually been beat up by little bitty other cichlids that he easily could have dealt with. So again, I'm all for trying things. Just know that things could go wrong and have a plan, which knowing you, Mississippi Hippie, I'm sure you will. Have kept the Acaras before and didn't see a lot of aggression issues, and have had, again, like I mentioned, the Yellow Labs could probably work in terms of aggression, but just be prepared in case it doesn't.
Yeah, the Yellow Labs are the only African Mabunas that I've never had fight, really, or they've been good with each other. All the other types of Mabunas I've had have been murdering they like to kill each other. But the yellow ones are the only ones that I've had success with. I didn't even realize they were Mabunas until you just said that. So
yeah, and I'm again not the expert by any means. Not that I claim to be an expert on anything, but that's definitely not my area of common knowledge and lots of experience. M&C Aquatics, I've been talking to you in the comments. I know you've been participating in that 1 hour challenge that we talked about some last week, getting our hands wet and working on our tanks 1 hour every single day. Specifically about that 240 you've got. You're really pushing me to get my 220 sealed up and going. You talk about that 240 because they said in the chat, got the 240 now to find room. But just know that you are personally pushing me to get that thing up and running as quick as I possibly can. And I'm really having fun talking to all you all. If you go over to the community tab, this is for everybody, not just members. I'm doing a weekly post, and then I'm doing daily updates on there of what I'm spending my 1 hour doing in the fish rooms. And I'm really having fun hearing from you all, talking about your different projects, different aquascapes, different new tanks, old tanks coming out, even finding some videos from some of you all that I didn't realize had videos. So I appreciate all the fun that we're having over there. Again, you go to the community tab. It doesn't really get sent out by YouTube like videos and other things do, so there's not a lot of notifications on it from what I've seen. But if you check that, we're having some good conversations there, and we encourage you to come along for that. Let's see, roll on down through here. Paul Stero says, James, free-dried tube effects worms drive all my fish nuts. They're on the cube so fast I can't stick them to the glass. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another one of those great things that since we've lost the old formulation of the ONIP tabs that stuck on the glass, and I know several other people have talked about this. I'm not the first or only, and this is not my brilliant idea, so to speak, but when you've got so many people doing things, you're going to have things in common, right? You can get those things wet in there. I think it's having to do with my lighting that the camera tries to figure out weird things. So I'm going to have to work on that. But there we go. You get the cubes, you get them wet, you smush them, and you can stick them to the glass like Paul's mentioning. And it's a really fun replacement for those ONIP tabs. Because I know a lot of us enjoyed sticking those to the glass, watching our fish interact with those, and also getting some good filming shots as well. All right. I think I'm at the bottom with 4 minutes to go. I'm sure we had some things that got missed. I apologize. Chat did jump around. I tried to give you all a good mix of items, conversation, and not ignoring you all. There goes the pressure on my chair. So you'll start to see me get shorter over this last couple minutes of the live stream. But feel free to throw anything in. If you put at Fisherman Fever to highlight for me, be happy to.
Nicholas has a question. He didn't put at Fisher and Fever. He just said, hey, guys. So maybe he's talking to everybody else. But he has a question about what type of barbs should he put in with – would do well in a 75-gallon large school of tiger barbs. So I think he's looking for tank mates with a large school of tiger barbs. Now, hopefully the tiger barbs will just mess with each other.
Right. But that's that my biggest thing there with tiger barbs is tiger barbs can be fairly aggressive. They're known fairly well for that being a common occurrence. So if you look at other things like denisons and whatnot, you really have to take into account. I've seen tiger barbs beat up on much larger fish before. Case in point, Big Frank, that vieja that I mentioned. So they're tough little suckers. I'd have to really think on that one and get back to you.
Yeah, he's saying what species of other barbs, I think. And it's tiger barbs, I think, are like the toughest of the barbs. So it's not like all barbs are like tiger barbs. I think tiger barbs give barbs a bad name.
They do. And that's part of the problem is you're taking in my opinion and experience, the most aggressive of the barbs and saying, what can I put with it? Not that you can't find things to go with it, but it makes it tricky versus taking the most docile one and saying, what can I add there? I know we've got a couple people that are huge barb fans and specifically have been putting together tiger barb setups and mixing some other barbs. They're Paul Sotero with the kind of like the black ruby barbs, similar look, no aggression issues. So there you go. I definitely they're black ruby barbs again for Daniken Aquatics. What's going on, my brother? Kenny E and gold barbs. So that's something I would defer to their judgment. Both of those very wise fish keepers, people that I trust. So going off of their experience, Geek Boy says, I dated a barb, not a fan. I love you, Geek Boy. So yeah, absolutely. I would go with those. Again, a huge thank you to everybody. Fishaholic says, Bob, and this is Steampot Aquatics, has a video on barbs. I have tiger barbs with Corridora, no issues. Absolutely. Very much appreciated, Fishaholic. And what are we going to talk about on your stream coming up next if you're watching us live?
Well, yesterday I got hooked. You know, I like to go on Facebook and look at the weird stuff. And one of them was weird creatures that live in the ocean. And I was like, boy, there's some really cool looking fish in the ocean that I had no idea existed. And so then I started thinking, well, why don't we talk about rare things that I would like to get for my fish room if they're rare. So it's like maybe when James and I went to the rare fish auction in Maryland, you know, maybe if one of these things popped up, or I'm at a fish store somewhere, who knows? Maybe I went to Mississippi and they happen to have this rare fish. I'm going to pick it up, and we're going to talk about some of these weird ones, and we'll see if James has any favorite weird fish that he's always keeping a mind open for, and you guys can enlighten us on what you think is cool too. Just now, these are things that I've either investigated on buying or I'm looking to the future of buying. So I just thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about some neat looking fish.
Absolutely. And I will say, if you've made it this far and you haven't hit the like button or the subscribe button, do me a favor, smash those. Those are free. If you really want to get into some behind the scenes stuff, we do have the members section, which is always an option. We appreciate the support. If you're still watching, you're catching the replay, check out these recommendations I'm going to have up on the screen for you. I think you'll enjoy those if you've enjoyed this. As always, a huge thank you for all the support and the love from you guys, the moderators, the members, the lurkers, the listeners, the super chatters, contributors, the commenters, and of course, the awesome replay crew. I love you guys. I appreciate you. Until next time, keep your fish healthy. Keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, everybody.